So it seems that the ceasefire between Israel and Iran is holding. And look, it was never going to be easy. These two are bitter enemies and have been so for decades, conducting a shadow war using proxies. Iran backs militants in Gaza, in Lebanon and Yemen. And Israel supports Iranian dissidents, has conducted assassinations and targeted strikes against the Iranian military. So it was hardly a surprise when both sides violated the ceasefire agreement just hours after Donald Trump announced it. He wasn't pleased.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
But after a sharp rebuke by Donald Trump, both sides pulled back, confirmed that there was a ceasefire in place. So why now? Why stop the fighting? Well, both sides needed to have a pause. They needed to spin a win, and that's exactly what they did. And look, the damage is real. Iran hasn't been this hard hit since the war against Iraq in the 1980s. Israel, too, with Iran's strikes against military sites in Tel Aviv and Haifa. There was also something bolder and unprecedented. Iran hit a U.S. military base in Qatar. Central Command is the largest base in that area, conducting all strikes in the Middle East. It seems that both Qatar and the U.S. were forewarned, so this was more a message rather than a potential massacre.
I tend to think of it as performance politics. I mean, the Qataris were told in advance, and they must have told the Americans because the base is on their territory. And so most of the planes and much of the personnel stationed there had been moved to other places ahead of time. Whatever damage there was contained to immovable infrastructure, shall we say. But this was not aimed at destroying the base. This was aimed at showing that we could, if we chose to.
Now, the ceasefire is little more than a pause, no real details, no timeline. But US President Donald Trump is already claiming victory, and we know that he wants to, quote, make Iran great again. Trump has claimed that they have stopped Iran's military program. But there's a problem. A Pentagon classified report, now disputed by the White House, shows that the US strikes on Iran's military sites did very little damage. If anything, it has only set back the program by a couple of months. This means that if Iran wants to make a nuclear weapon, a nuclear bomb, they can do so. And to that end, they have just voted Iran's parliament to pull out of the International Atomic Energy Agency, and they're going to be debating the Non-Proliferation Treaty. This means that Iran can go ahead with its nuclear program with no nuclear inspectors on site. This could have a dramatic impact on the power balance in the region. It could offset Israel's nukes and could certainly be a deterrent. I mean, look at Russia and look at North Korea. And Iran, in the meantime, has responded with a brutal crackdown. They've rounded up hundreds of people and executed 3 men with possible links to Mossad. So if any of this drives Iran to the negotiating table, they've got strong cards. They control the Strait of Hormuz, and we know that hundreds of tons of barrels of oil passes through every day, and they've got 40,000 American soldiers in their sights. So where's the US president? He is meeting his allies at a NATO summit. Will they chastise him for circumnavigating Congress and conducting the strike against Iran's nuclear sites, or praise him for ending the war?
This was crucial. You did it in a way which is extremely impressive, but the signal sends to the rest of the world that this president, when it comes to it, yes, he is a man of peace, but if necessary, he is willing to use strength, the enormous strength of the American military.
South Africa is also weighing in on these fluid events.
They could make shipping transit around the Cape of Good Hope enormously attractive for shippers. It's longer. It costs more money than going through the Suez Canal, say, but it would be obviously a great deal safer for commercial vessels, assuming that the ports could handle it. What it could do in the geopolitical or geostrategic area, of course, is act more vigorously to say, in spite of any of our relations with any of the states involved in the current unpleasantness, we need to work together with all other nations to bring this to a halt.
They're calling for a global framework that links Iran, Syria, and Gaza that'll help push for peace. And while the ceasefire seems to be holding between Iran and Israel, the war on Gaza continues. Since the start of the 12-day war, at least 870 Palestinians have been killed. The question now is if Benjamin Netanyahu, after his success against Iran, feels emboldened enough to try and stop the war. Donald Trump thinks he can.
I think great progress is being made on Gaza. I think because of this attack that we made, I think we're going to have some very good news.
So for now, the guns are quiet between Israel and Iran, and that's no small feat. And particularly in this region, we know that quiet never lasts for long. I'm Jane Dutton for EWN.